God, very old discussions about Hacker News at this point, going on Reddit, looking into it and what the critical perspective is on the website. And, I would say that, of it, there's a great uh, comment, that I've been sharing, from elsewhere that really explains the nature of the problem over there on Hacker News. And it doesn't, I would say that the only reason to even downvote a comment like this would be that it's not quite on topic. For instance, I mean, if you go into the underbar, because like what's at the discussions that are being downvoted into oblivion, it starts with "That's great, but if I ever see a jumping spider in my house, then I will not hesitate to murder it in cold blood." And this is because somebody posted, "Researchers find signs of intelligence among jumping spiders," and then a comment gets downvoted twice, and then flagged, because the person says jumping spiders, they're generally tiny and cute. You can tell they have good vision because they track you around and put their little dukes up if you move towards them. Jeez, dude. So that's downvoted, by 2 points, and then it's flagged. I mean, this is a completely harmless post. I mean, if anything should have been done about this post over there on Hacker News and anything, for one thing, the news article that it was on, researchers find signs of intelligence among jumping spiders. Yeah, that should have been the thing that was flagged and removed in the first place because, for one thing, it's off topic. It's not related to hacker, it's not related to anything related to technology. It's just a science post. And, not that science isn't relevant, but it's not relevant to the themes discussed on Hacker News. Like, do you get where I'm going with this? If unless it was in some bin for off-topic post and everything, which they're welcome to create over there, but I don't really see that. You've got a sorting algorithm, to separate out, for instance, post based on themes that are in the post. So there's no sorting of them at all into separate, categories per the details. I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous. And, like was said, this is what gets downvoted and flagged by this Doucheteria, where Jagoffs are empowered to attack and bury innocuous comments from everyone else. The admins abet this behavior and compound it with their own user abuse, which is shadow banning people and wasting users' time by letting them compose questions or comments and then telling them, "Oh, you can't post." I mean, this is when I reacted with hostility on there to and just was just like KYS Apple sheep, and got kicked off there for it. It was motivated by the fact that I'd been browsing the site for a while, and people were like, I wish Qualcomm would just go away. They're irritated with Qualcomm, and then, like, there's a lot of stealth Apple worship going on there. Like, we don't want any real competition to Apple, with that. But, my comment that got downvoted on there was completely on topic, and it just got downvoted, I guess, because some jagoff piece of shit, basically, it disagrees with me. And so, you have to downvote it into oblivion, and they don't like me. So, fuck me, right? Because I don't like Apple the way that they do. And my comment was essentially, I hope Qualcomm prevails in its lawsuit. Oh no, how dare I, post something like that? Like, I think my problem with Hacker News is basically that in a nutshell. Post that really, I mean, it took me 5 seconds to write what I was going to say, what I said on there. Because I don't really care that deeply about what I'm saying on there at all. I'm just weighing in on what my opinion is, and like, I can't even do that on there. No, I mean, like, even if it's just innocent, like, I hope Qualcomm wins. No, it's for not meeting the consensus. And I would say, honestly, I think that part of my big issue is that the site is infested with a bunch of web developers. I mean, and I've come to realize that I've got a bit of an issue with web developers at this point, as a group of people among developers that sets them apart from other developers. And I find them to be, let me put it this way: a web developer would reinvent the wheel, 150,000 million ways, you know, just because they perceive some minor flaw with a program or a piece of software. They would, they would, if the wheel were a piece of software, they would find a million different ways to rewrite it, because of the fact that they perceive some minor flaw with it. They're whiny. They're a bunch of people that get, give up on a piece of technology and abandon it for the lamest reasons, and for very little, in terms of perceptual flaw. I mean, they prefer like Discord over IRC, because like Discord has backlogging support, as if version 3 of IRC doesn't actually support backlogging support and everything. It does have it at this point. And that's the issue that they're going out to bat over, is the lack of backlogging support. I can't. It's whiny. It's getting fed up with something and abandoning it over essentially nothing. Oh God, the discussions here have an ephemeral nature. The users that come in can't, rewind all the way back to like the very beginning of the discussion. I can't with people's bullshit. Like, it's bullshit. And this is the problem with web development. I mean, for one thing, they could fix IRC if they wanted to, but they're not going to do that. They're going to create a whole brand new technology in the first place. I mean, any shortcoming IRC has is addressable because of the fact that it's extensible. So you can go in and add to your IRCD whatever feature you want it to have, and like, but they're not going to do that because they don't want to spend the time to actually learn it. They're going to keep trying to, create Matrix chat and some other newfangled technology, I guess, because they don't like the fucking clunky, UI of the damn thing. But they're also ignoring the fact that IRC is as clunky or it is not clunky as you want it to be. I mean, you can use IRC Cloud and, a bunch of other alternatives that will make it, a much more clean UI for you, that, what I mean? Like, there's a range of options and plugins and extensibility in that direction. And it just, it's stupidity at large. I mean, web developers, like I said, they would reinvent the wheel a million, 150 million, a trillion different ways because of the fact that, they perceive some minor flaw with it. And, this is how you get the chaos that's going to be like the future of web chat. There, it's going to become a fragmented mess, of chat application after chat application in 10,000 different directions, and no one chat application that unifies them all into one clean interface. I mean, this is shit, and it's part of the rot that is web development, in general. And unfortunately, because it's a startup culture there at Hacker News, I mean, of a bunch of startup morons, that's, basically what you're going to get is a bunch of web developers that find themselves caught up in that ecosystem, and if what's of interest to them, tends to be dominating on the whole thing. And if you're not a web developer and you're interested in other forms of development, fuck you, basically, in that crowd of losers over there. I really do. I feel like Reddit is a much better site, especially because Reddit, I guess you could say, is better tabulated in such a way that, like, a post about spiders and everything would, actually be in a subcategory that it makes sense in, instead of aggregated into one big, goddamn feed, as we've gone over here. But if I encountered those comments on Hacker News and that post, I would have just left it alone. I wouldn't have flagged the person who posted it in the first place or anything. I just point out that it's not relevant to cybersecurity. Like the whole thing wasn't relevant to cybersecurity, but is OP the one that got downvoted there? No, it's some user that replied to it and engaged in the discussion. And I find that so typically the norm over there on Hacker News. It's shit getting downvoted that didn't really deserve it. That was just reacting to a post that some other user made. I mean, this is silly, and Hacker News is full of this. I mean, and if you go back and look at like the discussion that got me kicked off there, as far as the platform is concerned, all I said was I hope Qualcomm wins, and it got downvoted almost instantly. So I know that posts start off at the default of +1, and then they get taken away. So I wrote back, in reaction to that, I stamping my foot. I basically said, "Oh fuck, go fucking kill yourself, Apple sheep," and that's it right there. I mean, it says everything I think is the fucking problem with the whole thing. I mean, like honestly, it's the startup culture. So of course, be a bunch of Apple bootlickers, basically, because Apple is seen as the one that actually succeeded. So let's replicate this horror, because this horror is what the people with bad taste adopted. The lowest common denominator adopted. And Apple's tech is only good because it appeals to the lowest common denominator. It's the lowest quality people that are the biggest fan of their fucking hardware, and you get a bunch of this head up its own ass mentality over there at the site, which is like this one application is fatally flawed because it isn't cross compatible on iOS, Android, and every other fucking application across the board, and doesn't run on every fucking platform and everything. And JavaScript is the best because there's cross compatibility there, and it will run on anybody's crap, even if it runs inefficiently as hell. And it'd be better done on the desktop, even though you might have to write different programs for different operating systems to do that. No, I mean, this is this is the problem with Hacker News, is that the overwhelming majority of the programmers that you're going to see on there are probably Java web developers. I mean, that's they're going to be not Java web developers, but JavaScript web developers. Sorry, there's a difference between those two, and that's not a crowd that's bad programming habits you really want to encourage at all. I mean, I get it. I understand what appeals about JavaScript already. I mean, like I said, it's from my vantage point. If you make it for the browser, it'll run on anything. That stated, it'll run inefficiently and slow on everything. JavaScript seems to be used almost exclusively for things that it should never be used for. The few things that it's actually good at doing, it's rare to never actually limited to and used for. It's way too flexible, and as a result, it gets abused to, write all kinds of software that it would really be better written in another language. And that's the unfortunate thing. I mean, web developers encourage a lot of really unfortunate programming habits, and that's that's the majority that you're going to see over there on Hacker News. Web developers. It's the brain rot that is web development that is going to dominate your experience over there.